It was on this date in the year 1776 that the Resolution for Independence was passed in the Continental Congress. 12 colonies voted aye. New York would sign up later. The future second president and hot miniseries subject, John Adams, said of this date, the second day of July, 1776, will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. Missed it by 2 days. We, of course, celebrate not the July 2nd event Adams was so excited about, but rather the adoption of the Declaration of Independence 2 days later on July 4th. And once again, John Adams looks like a boob. Let's play oddball. We begin in Eastlake, California, where we find the summer home of Stephen Colbert. Actually, this is America enthusiast Steve Pfeiffer's house. Each year, a week before the 4th of July, Pfeiffer drags out hundreds of American flags and displays them all over his Southern California property. This marks the 15th year Pfeiffer has been at this. He says his neighbors love the display. And if you can find him camouflaged in this soundbite, you'll hear Pfeiffer explain just what America means to him.
It's not real windy right now, but when the wind's blowing and the flags are just flapping in the breeze, it just gets me right here.
I hate to rain on your parade, Mr. Pfeiffer, but I don't see an American flag lapel pin on that shirt of yours. To the old zoo in Sakai City, Japan, where the monkeys are so fat, they don't even have the energy to fling their own poop. These monkeys are so fat, people thought there were 2 hippo exhibits. I'm sorry, I kid the fat monkeys, but it is a real problem. These are rhesus monkeys, and some in the exhibit weigh 3 times what a normal rhesus monkey weighs. Zookeepers say patrons are to blame for overfeeding the primates. After years of falling for the big bones excuse, the zoo has put the monkeys on a diet. Their calorie intake has been slashed by 60%. And if that doesn't work, 2 words for you. Tybo. Monkey Tybo. Be afraid. 24 is sometimes credited with keeping Americans hyped about the terror threat, but can the TV thriller take credit for Barack Obama's political success? The fictional black president from 24 land says, sure. And the real war on terror, no less absurd. The U.S. resorts to spying on the Iraqi army. You heard correctly, we're now spying on the very Iraqi army we trained. Tell me again why we're there in the first place? But first, the headlines breaking in the administration's 50 running scandals. Here it comes. Bush. Number 3, privatizing your money gate. On everything from your health care to fighting terrorists, the Bush administration says private companies do it better and cheaper than the Bush administration. But the Washington Post reports that every year since 2001, more than 300 employees of private companies have filed claims saying their companies defrauded the government. The Bush Justice Department has only pursued about 100 cases a year, to the tune of about 13 billion recovered tax dollars. The current backlog of cases not being pursued is more than 900. Number 2, only Bush could go to China-gate. We needed torture to get life-saving intelligence, right? We needed confessions and intel, and if we had to break a few eggs to get that omelet, then so be it. Today, the New York Times reports that trainers at Guantanamo based an interrogation lesson there on a chart of coercive techniques, a chart that dated to 1957. That chart was taken from an article called Communist Attempts to Elicit False Confessions from Air Force Prisoners of War. This was a study of how the Chinese tortured propaganda fodder out of Americans in the Korean War. Prolonged standing, exposure to cold, all that enhanced interrogation stuff. We called it torture when the Chinese did it to our guys in Korea. And we know it produces false confessions. So why are we using these techniques? And number 1, have you got a good lawyer gate? The Justice Department's Inspector General found last week that justice officials made hiring decisions based on politics and ideology, which is a violation of the law, not to mention a violation of justice. In doing so, the Justice Department illegally rejected the job applications of some of the country's best lawyers, possibly hundreds. Surprise! The jilted lawyers, they're suing! Not only because their rejections violated civil service laws, but because their privacy was violated when the DOJ researched their political views. As if that's not enough, to defend itself, the Justice Department now has to rely on the legal savvy, the brilliant legal minds of the people it hired instead, like the genius alumni of Jerry Falwell's, quote, university, end quote.